West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy with Chef Justice Putnam. Netrootsradio.com.
Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théières, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. À fleurs sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte.
So I've heard the excuse about how my dog ate my homework for elementary school and middle school students, and now Donald Trump's lawyers are trying to pull that in federal court before federal judge Eileen Cannon, as things in the Mar-a-Lago document case are not going exactly as planned for Donald Trump and his co-defendants. Judge Cannon's made some rulings that are not totally favorable to them, and Judge Cannon has kept that May 20th trial date. Still, she has not reset that trial date despite a March 1st hearing where she indicated that she would, and she also set a deadline for Donald Trump and his lawyers to make a CIPA Section 5 disclosure. In other words, for them to disclose what types of potential classified documents they would make public at the trial. And now Donald Trump and his lawyers are doing everything to try to stop that case from moving forward. The latest effort that was just filed by Donald Trump's lawyer, Christopher Kise, who Trump's paid like a $3 million retainer to, or close to that amount, maybe even more. Notice of unavailability of counsel. This is what was just filed by Trump's lawyer before Judge Eileen Cannon. Please take notice that counsel, they have to call him president even though he's not, I'm just going to read what they wrote. Please take notice that counsel for President Donald J. Trump, Christopher M. Kise, will be unavailable from April 29th, 2024 through May 14th, 2024 due to a scheduled surgery on April 29th, 2024 and the post-surgery recovery period, which will restrict his ability to work and travel during that time. Signed, Christopher Kise. So let me get this straight. You didn't tell anybody this before, and now you're saying that you have some surgery that's taking place on April 29th so that you're not going to be available during a key period, potentially leading up to a day where trial is currently scheduled, because you're saying there's a surgery and then there's recovery time. I mean, look, I don't want to pry whether this is elective surgery or something like urgent. I would assume if it was urgent or emergency, you wouldn't necessarily just kind of wait. It would happen kind of right away, or you would state that this is an emergency. Like, you would at least address it in your filing. This is urgent. This was unexpected. You wouldn't just so cavalierly go, I've got a surgery and then there's going to be recovery time, so I'm just not going to be available during the key period of time here. And by the way, other suspicious circumstances surrounding that, because about 10 days ago, Donald Trump's lawyers filed a motion to adjourn existing dates and deadlines, like that CIPA Section 5 deadline that Judge Cannon set for May 9th. This was the filing that Trump's lawyers made about 2 weeks ago or so. The requested adjournment is appropriate in light of the upcoming trial, People v. Trump. The May 9th deadlines will require lengthy classified submissions and extensive time in a SCIF to prepare and discuss those submissions, which is time, they call him President Trump and his attorney simply do not have during the trial that is about to begin in New York. For example, the special counsel's office filed a long classified expert notice that we must access in Florida and address in connection with efforts to identify defense experts. In addition, while classified discovery in this case is not complete, SEPA Section 5A is not limited to documents produced in discovery. Rather, the statute requires defendants to provide notice of all classified information that the defense expects to disclose or to cause the disclosure of at trial or during any pretrial proceeding. Exactly. That means this is actually in your possession and custody and control. You got these documents like a year ago, and then you should know your own documents that you intend to introduce. I've been very critical of Judge Cannon for a lot of issues, but normally you would set SEPA Section 5 submissions in cases involving classified information towards the beginning of the case when you set a scheduling order. Special counsel Jack Smith tried to educate Judge Eileen Cannon on the law of SEPA, but Judge Cannon ignored that, and she only recently set the date for SEPA Section 5. So this is something that Trump and his lawyers should have provided a long time ago, and they didn't mention here anything in this paragraph about, oh, by the way, the main lawyer in this case, Christopher Kise, he's not the trial lawyer in Manhattan. He's not doing anything in the Manhattan case. He was in the New York Attorney General civil fraud case. Kise is the main lawyer in the classified document case where Trump stole national defense information. And now I guess they realize that and they go, oh, I guess that excuse isn't going to fly. Hey, Kise, say that you're going to have a surgery now and you're going to not be free for the key dates. I mean, this is what I mean, folks. Come on. It's just so pathetic, this conduct. And by the way, on April 14th, Special Counsel Jack Smith responded to the motion for adjournment, calling out Donald Trump for the delay tactics. And here's what Jack Smith's team wrote. On April 10th, 2024, this court, having heard argument on the parties' competing scheduling proposals, set May 9th as the deadline for defendants' expert witness disclosures and notice pursuant to SEPA Section 5A. Following their pattern, the defendants responded to the court's deadline by seeking another postponement. This time, Trump invokes his New York trial. This court set the May 9th deadline fully apprised of defendant Trump's New York trial. Although the defendant's motion reads as though the court were unaware of Trump's other case, and as if defendants had no forewarning that a Section 5 deadline would be set, those premises are plainly wrong. The defendants have had ample notice of these deadlines, when they would be scheduled, and have already had months to complete the work. The cases the defendants cite to claim a constitutional right to postponement are inopposite for these reasons and others. The defendants have had the government's expert witness disclosures for 3 months. All 6,043 pages of classified discovery implicated by the court's order for several weeks, 5,479 of those for over 5 months. The defendants also knew these deadlines would be scheduled and would be coming. So Jack Smith says, we ain't got time for that. So then Jack Smith filed that on April 14th. And then 10 days later, on April 24th, you got Donald Trump's lawyer, Christopher Kise, saying, I'm not even around anymore. I decided to do a surgery, and then it's going to take me 2 weeks to recover from the surgery. So I guess I'm not going to be available during the key dates. Now, Christopher Kise was retained a very long time ago. Christopher Kise knew about this trial date. Christopher Kise, one of the first people that Donald Trump brought on his trial team. He was the lawyer also in the New York Attorney General civil fraud case. He and Alina Habba lost that case, and judgment was entered against Donald Trump for $464 million plus post-judgment interest. We've covered Christopher Kise's background. He was high up in Republican administrations, in legal roles. You see him right there. in Florida. He was also a foreign agent, or did foreign agent work for Venezuela. He had to file a FARA registration because he was providing the Venezuelan government and is providing the Venezuelan government while representing Donald Trump. So while he has access to classified docs, he's also providing advice and guidance to Venezuela. So just, see his form right there. You don't have to take my word for it. He's, been paid millions and millions of dollars. You can see in the financial disclosures. And all of this is coming as I mentioned at the outset of this video, look, Judge Cannon denied Donald Trump's co-defendant Waltine Nauta and Carlos de Oliveira's motion to dismiss the indictment and bill of particulars. She rejected that. She also revealed or released a bunch of confidential documents, which Trump was trying to provoke to release, which are absolutely horrendous for Donald Trump. There's a whistleblower who was close to Donald Trump who's redacted. His name is redacted, but it's Person 16. And Person 16 talks about how Donald Trump knowingly, willfully, unlawfully stole these records. Person 16 also has a number of embarrassing insights into lawyers dressing a certain way to try to catch Donald Trump's attention. Person 16 said he warned Donald Trump that what he was doing was criminal. Person 16 had access to Donald Trump in the Oval Office. Person 16 talked about all of the people Donald Trump surrounds himself with who are also crooked and crooks. So the release of those documents were horrific for Donald Trump. And then we just got an ABC report that just broke. So appalled what witnesses told special counsel about Trump's handling of classified info while he was still president. An array of former associates described Trump's treatment of government secrets. And they talk about how Donald Trump said he wanted to reveal classified information like info on Iran's nuclear secrets and codes and maps because Donald Trump thought it was sexy. That's what Donald Trump's close advisors have been saying, that they thought it was sexy, so they should so that they should release it. You remember the photo that Donald Trump posted. The aides who have spoken with Jack Smith talk about how upsetting it was that Donald Trump released and revealed all of these classified information, how it placed our military and our foreign assets completely in peril. People described Donald Trump hoarding classified documents while he was in office like a junk drawer all over the place. So that's all happening, and now all of a sudden Donald Trump's lawyer says, I got a surgery, I'm not going to be around and available anymore. So judge for yourself, folks.
It is Thursday, the 25th of April of 2024, and you are in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. I am your chef de cuisine, Justice Putnam. Gunner, the English Bulldog, is our snoozing sous chef. Precious, the little Yorkie, is our door girl, and she will be seating you directly for our especially special daily special, Metro Shrimp and Grits Thursdays. A little bit of jambalaya, a little bit of spice in your life, indeed. Yes, little Precious is getting around so much better. I'm sometimes worried maybe she's doing it a little bit too early. She goes in later on today to have the sutures removed, and the Dr. Dickey, our vet, said that I may have to do actual physical manipulation to break the adhesions, but I don't think she's been pushing off on the leg very much, but she has been putting it down. I've been discouraging her from, jumping up and, climbing things. She's been getting down, but that's mostly on her front legs, which I suppose isn't that good in the greater scheme of things. But today she gets her sutures out. We'll find out how well she's progressed on her own, which Dr. Dickey also informed me that, dogs kind of do it on their own. And it looks like she has. So she's doing so much better, and we'll be able to get that confining cone off of her neck so that she doesn't come around and, remove the sutures with her tongue and teeth. Yep. So she gets that off, I'm sure she's going to feel so much better. And I don't blame her. I would too. So how are you out there in radio listening land? Well, internet radio, but it's still, we affect the radio format because that's what we do. Anyway, how are you? Looks like we have a hush money trial, which is really an election interference trial. And then we have the Supreme Court, which yesterday, as you know, are divided on whether, women should just die to save a blastocyst, which is going to die also if mom dies. But if there's a choice between somehow saving the the unborn child, the angel baby. If there's some way to save that, mom dies. And just because she's going to die a horrible, painful, agonizing death is no reason for her to put herself above this clump of cells. And if there's a fetal heartbeat, which does not happen, the clump of cells does not have a heart. Oh, there's movement there. It's got to have a heart. Yeah, that's because you don't know anything about science. Didn't take any biology classes. I wish that if somebody like Alito is going to judge the lives of women across this nation, maybe he should go through sepsis, see what it's like, and then he can decide, let the little ladies die. Can you imagine Abigail Adams coming up to Alito and say, hey, what about the little ladies? And Alito turns around and says, hey, bitch, let the ladies die. So that's on the ballot in November, okay? We all know that. If we even get to vote. Because I'm not so sure now. Because today, Donald Trump has returned to his hush money trial, which once again is an election interference trial. The same Supreme Court that yesterday is now divided on whether women should die, not in the ER, but outside of it. You're not even allowed in here. Get going. There's the parking lot. Are going to now be divided on whether Trump can order SEAL Team 6 to go kill his political rivals with no repercussions because the President of the United States is next to God and definitely above the law. Never before has a president ever been constrained by the lack of total immunity. No president has ever had total immunity because they didn't need to be immune to any crimes except for two. Donald Trump and Richard Nixon. There's been two that we haven't been able to contain, and they're both Republicans. Seems like a pattern. Yep. Oh, God. Enough to make one angry, and it does. It makes me angry. Yep. Not so much that I'm going to go out and, I don't know, risk... What would I be willing to risk? Would I be willing to risk a scholarship? I don't know. I was forbidden to take athletic scholarships because my dad's a college professor and he felt that if you're going to go to college, it's for something real. Okay, Dad. And he was right, though. But I will say that I don't like the idea of just unfettered killing. No one does. But this whole Hamas thing, I'm sorry, but it felt like AstroTurf in the beginning. It certainly seems like AstroTurf. And the difference between what happened when we were trying to stop the war in Vietnam and now is that only a few of us were, manipulated into joining a foreign power at odds with the United States of America to take down the United States of America. Seems like there's a lot of people who are susceptible to a particular kind of I don't know what. Look, there's a crowd. Let's join it. I don't want to say that this is emblematic of a whole movement, but there was an interview with a relatively young college student who was asked, so what are you protesting here? She goes, I don't know. Okay. In the same sort of vein that people went to the church ice cream socials. I don't know. There was some ice cream. Do you know that this church is dancing with snakes and singing gibberish? No. I'm just here for the ice cream. I had no idea. Okay. So what you going to do about it? I'm going to get some ice cream. It's fun. Look at all these people. I never get to see people. In New York, apparently, they don't get to see people. So, like I said, I don't think that's emblematic of a whole movement. Oops. As I knock things over here, not anything important except for the TV remote. Actually, some water. There's the remote. I'm sorry. A little bit of domestic chores here. What are you going to do? All right. Sorry about the disruption, but I guess that brings me out of this reverie to give you a rundown on what we have in store for you in this salon that we call West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy as we begin in the Bistro Cafe of such salon, because we also have a speakeasy. And to get there, you got to go through and sit at the chef's table, where we give you a little amuse-bouche, and then we're right through the portals of time. Well, what do we have in store for you? Yes, at the top. Let's just tee it up for Eileen. And in the court filing in Cannon's Court, that Trump lawyer, Chris Case. Was he the Solicitor General for Florida? What was he? He was some lawyer bigwig for the state of Florida. I think maybe during Rick Scott. Anyway, he now claims he's no longer free for 2 weeks, so she has to delay the trial by a lot. Certainly past that May 5th? Wow. On the rest of the menu, a federal judge ordered an anonymous jury for the trial of Steve Bannon associate Guo Wengwei, citing his past acts. Like intimidation. People suddenly deciding, I can't do this. Mm-hmm. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Yes, it does. Hey, the dumbest man on the internet, Gateway pundit Jim Hoft, will file for bankruptcy amid a slew of election conspiracy lawsuits. Yeah. Good. And the first commercial hydrogen fuel station for big rig trucks in the United States is up and running at the Port of Oakland in California. After the break, we move to the chef's table where Russia vetoed a UN resolution calling for the prevention of a dangerous nuclear arms race in space. Mm-hmm. We were way past lasers in space by Jewish people. Marjorie. And a Peruvian judge ordered the preventative detention of an Iranian and 2 Peruvians in a thwarted plot to kill Israelis living in the country. I'm telling you, there's some sort of virus going around, and a bunch of people have caught it. Seems like it's been going on for quite some time, too. All that and more on West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit. netrootsradio.com. To the right of the page is the chat room link, and the chat room is monitored by Kelly Lincoln, and we thank Kelly for doing so, and so much else. Across the page to the left from that chat room link that is near the bottom of our homepage at netrootsradio.com is the link to our Patreon page, and if you could become a recurring Patreon of Netroots Radio, it really does help us put a big dent in the recurring bills and costs running this powerhouse of resistance. We have found that over these many years that as long as we pay our bills, we tend to be able to fly under the radar. And it's been so many years that people have actually used radar in that way. But we do it because everything is accessible and has to be utilized in this time of need against, well, forces arrayed around the world against equality, mom's apple pie, baseball where the pitcher has to go to bat, and everything good in the world. And we're just hoping that we're in our little small powerhouse way, that we're a bulwark against it. And we thank you for allowing us to fulfill our civic duty as the founders originally intended all those many years ago. So thank you. And you know what to do, and I'll let Tom tell you how to do it later. Yes. All righty. You know, if you wanted to follow Netroots Radio on the social media, you can do so because Tom takes care of it. Follow Netroots Radio at Netroots Radio. How simple is that? You can follow me on the social medias at Justice Putnam. I incidentally post the show notes and links diary on Daily Co's 10 minutes before showtime so that you have easy access to the actual articles that we have drawn such great inspiration from here. Also, do follow the show on Twitter, and it's just a placeholder, but we'll get it up and really running, and I promise that, as I have for quite some time. But follow it on Twitter at Cookbook West, and please do pick up podcasts by way of Spreaker, TuneIn, iHeart, YouTube, iTunes, even Audible now. That's kind of nice. Okay, before we get into this first offering, I meant to mention at the top about Harvey Weinstein having his rape conviction in 2020 overturned by the New York Appellate Court, and I believe, the state court there. And now rest assured that he is still in jail under a 16-year sentence for a rape conviction out of Los Angeles. So he's staying in jail. But the odorous, and I say odorous because it stinks, reason that the appellate court said that they got to let Harvey Weinstein go. And I suppose if I put on my detached lawyer hat, maybe I can follow it. But if anybody wants to talk about lawfare, this is what lawfare is. When they whine about activist judges, this is what activist judges are. Apparently, the prosecutor, in building his case, had allowed women who had been harmed by Harvey Weinstein, whose allegations in some ways were ignored. He let them testify, and because Harvey Weinstein had such a long history of not only being a creep, but of raping young starlets so that he can get his way, and then manipulating their careers by whether they gave it up or not. The appellate court said that the jury was tainted because they were made aware of what a creep the guy was and that he had been known for a long time, decades, of raping young starlets, manipulating and advancing their careers, or destroying them, whether or not they gave it up. Or as I like to say, the court said that the prosecutor and the judge in that case allowed women to testify against Harvey Weinstein, and that was prejudicial to him because the jury would know that he had a long history of being a rapist of young starlets whose careers hinged on whether or not they gave it up to Harvey Weinstein. So, is it small consolation that he's still in jail in a 16-year sentence? Well, yeah, for now. Until, I guess, what circuit is it out here, the 11th? We'll see. Are they going to hear a case about women testifying against the rapist is prejudicial to the rapist? Oh my God. I know, I'm simplifying it too much. That's why it's only my middle name is Justice. My first name is Royal. I know. No one dared call me Royal. It was bad enough they called me Roy. I went by RJ. Until a pretty girl in my younger days, when I say younger days, 19 or so, asked me what my initials stood for, and I told her, and she said Justice was a nice name, and it might even be a nicer stage name, and I should use it. And I did. And here we are, back in sundown town, Southern Oregon, and I'm telling people, oh, hi, my name is Roy, because once they find out I'm Justice, I don't know what they might be capable of, because I suspect what they are capable of. And I'm not one of those insufferable youth who think that they can live forever. Yeah, not anymore. When they said that we were going to be immortals, they never said how much it would hurt. You still scar, you break things, you get out of breath. But we're immortals. Thank you very much. Jeez. All right. So let us then, after that Harvey Weinstein diatribe, God, I hate that guy. Let us tuck into this first offering here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, if I can get there. It is. And it is out of the Associated Press by Larry Neumeister, a self-exiled Chinese businessman, is set to face an anonymous jury at his trial next month on fraud charges after a judge Wednesday, cited his past willingness to tamper with judicial proceedings as reason for concern. I don't know. They get to show this guy's past behavior. Hope it doesn't get overturned. I should add that somehow Larry in this article goes through the whole article without ever mentioning that this guy is a business associate with Steve Bannon, and they were both arrested on this guy's yacht. So I don't know. And from what I understand, in the same trial, Bannon was cited as an indicted conspirator. I'm just saying. You know what you know, and then you don't know what they won't let you know. You know? Well, this guy, Guo Wengwei, goes to trial on May 22nd in Manhattan Federal Court, where jurors will be escorted by U.S. Marshals in and out of the courthouse, according to an order from Judge Annalisa Torres. Lawyers for Guo agreed that the jury should be anonymous, saying in court papers that protective measures are justified by the actions and potential actions of the Chinese Communist Party. Well, I'd be, concerned about them as well. Who, they continue, has not hesitated to use each and every means at its disposal to attack him, the judge noted in her written order. Okay, this is part of her written order. I gotcha. She also said defense lawyers opposed the claims by prosecutors that an anonymous jury was necessary on the grounds that Guo has used his organization to harass and threaten critics, and because of his extensive obstructive conduct and substantial media attention. Doesn't this sound familiar? From our perspective, it would be appropriate, due to the actions and potential actions the Chinese Communist Party may take, defense attorney Sid Kamarayu said of an anonymous jury in an interview, repeating what the defense asserted in court papers. Torres said that she had previously found that Guo had demonstrated a willingness to tamper with judicial proceedings. Familiar? When he posted videos and social media posts encouraging followers to persevere with protests at the homes and offices of a bankruptcy trustee and his lawyer, resulting in threats and harassments against the trustee and his associates. My God. They're all playing from the same playbook, you know. The judge also said she chose not to address concerns by Guo's lawyers about the Chinese Communist Party targeting their client because the rationale from prosecutors was sufficient in and of itself to order an anonymous jury. Summer of the Washington Post brings us this next offering here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Metro Shrimp and Grits Thursdays. A little bit of jambalaya. A little bit of spice in your life. Gateway Pundit. Run by the dumbest man on the internet. And that's in quotes, by the way. Jim Hoft. The popular far-right blog is filing for bankruptcy as it faces lawsuits alleging, there's no alleging, it promoted bogus claims about the 2020 election. Its founder announced yesterday, Wednesday, though he vowed to continue publishing. Well, once a newsletter, always a newsletter. Since its launch in 2004, the site has become a prolific clearinghouse for conspiracy theories about the election, school shootings, and other topics, helping to funnel such flimsy stories from the fringes of the internet to the broader pro-Trump right, thanks to its substantial audience. You know, like the National Enquirer of the internet. But all those conspiracy theories have had a cost for Jim Hoft, the Missouri blogger who founded Gateway Pundit. You know, quote, the dumbest man on the internet, end quote. In a message on the site, Hoft said its parent company would file for bankruptcy because it was under attack from progressive liberal lawsuits. Hoft said the bankruptcy filing would help consolidate the lawsuits. Oh, you mean hide the money so you don't have to pay up. The bankruptcy filing was not immediately available, and Hoft did not respond to a request for comment. Well, you know, it was not noted by the courts. Did it really happen? While he did not name which lawsuits he was referencing, the site is being sued for claims of defamation and infliction of emotional distress by Ruby Freeman and Wandrea Moss, two Georgia election workers, mom and her daughter, who faced threats after the site leveled baseless accusations of ballot fraud against them. Well, that's just too bad. Pay up, Jim. Chris Mitchell of the Los Angeles Times brings us this final offering here in the Bistro Cafe part of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. The first commercial hydrogen fuel station for big rig trucks in the U.S. is up and running at the Port of Oakland, a baby step toward what hydrogen proponents see as a clean new future for long-haul trucking. The small station, now serving 30 hydrogen fuel cell trucks, could mark the start of a nationwide network for fuel cell truck refueling. It could also flop. The challenges are immense. Hydrogen fuel is expensive, as much as 4 times more expensive than gasoline or diesel. The fuel cells, which drive electric motors to drive the truck, are enormously expensive as well. Making hydrogen itself is now a dirty greenhouse gas generating process, although green hydrogen production is an emerging option, and even more expensive. Hydrogen proponents are banking on the idea that scaling up production will bring prices down. Well, you would hope. New diesel truck sales will be outlawed in California by 2036. I remember when they said diesel was a clean fuel because the particulates just kind of floated down onto the ground and they were too heavy to actually breathe in. So don't worry. Only zero tailpipe emission new trucks will be allowed. Already zero emission requirements are in place for trucks that enter ocean ports. And only 2 technologies are available to achieve that goal: battery electric trucks and hydrogen fuel cell trucks. We believe a good portion of those will be hydrogen vehicles, said Matt Miyasato, Chief of Public Policy for hydrogen fuel distributor First Element Fuel. First Element, through its True Zero brands fueling stations, is the largest hydrogen fuel distributor in the U.S., and Miyasato spoke Tuesday, at a ceremony to mark the station's opening. I got to say, 30 stations to fill up 30 big rig trucks, that's a pretty big truck stop, I think. I think, it's a good idea. Let's see. But I would also like to have better battery storage that, so that we could maybe plug in at home and run things off a solar panel that is able to store battery power on some much better technology battery storage that we just don't have right now. All right, let us now go to our break. And when we get back from that break, we will go through weather from around the world. And we will finish up with the stories that we have curated for you today. You are listening to West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, and we will be right back.
You are listening to netrootsradio.com.
Please hang up and try again.
From a point at sea to the circles of your mind, a new force is at work for planetary transformation. New radio for a new Earth.
Hey, hon, what you doing with your phone? Taking pictures?
No, I'm asking it questions.
Like what?
Hey, Bobo, do flowers have best friends?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, follow me. I want to show you something. Look, flowers do have best friends.
Whoa.
Some answers can only be found in nature. Discover the unsearchable. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a trail near you. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
I'm probably okay to have one more drink before I drive home. I'm probably okay. I open the window to stay alert. Probably okay. I just popped some gum in my mouth.
Step out of the car, please.
I probably made a mistake.
Probably okay isn't okay when it comes to drinking and driving. If you see a warning sign, stop and call a cab, a car, or a friend. Buzzed driving is drunk driving. A message brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Hi,
is Tom. Could we humbly suggest your donation to netrootsradio.com? All we've got to run this 24-hour powerhouse of progressive resistance radio is what comes out of our own wallets. And you are our biggest donor. And it doesn't take much, $3, $5. Just go to the bottom of our netrootsradio.com page and hit our secure donate button. Heck, you can even make a recurring contribution, and you'll get a wondiferous pair of Netroots radio stickers for application to your backpack, your bumper sticker, or your banjo. Well, it's up to you which backpack you want to put it on. So donate what you'd like at the bottom of our netrootsradio.com's homepage, because you are our biggest donor. netrootsradio.com. Together, we are Resistance Radio.
Here's how the voting system works, or doesn't. I'm Bill Newman, and this is the Civil Liberties Minute. In November 2026, Crystal Mason, thinking she was doing her civic duty, went to the polls to cast her vote. But her name was not on the voting roll, so Ms. Mason did what typically happens. She cast a provisional ballot. It turns out that Ms. Mason was not eligible to cast a real ballot because she was on federal supervised release. That's not a voting disqualification in many states, but it is in Texas, where she and her 3 children lived. Everyone agrees Ms. Mason didn't know that. But Texas prosecutors didn't care at all. They maintained lack of criminal intent was irrelevant. All that matters was that she illegally cast a provisional ballot, and she was convicted of voter fraud and sentenced to 5 years. 5 years for casting a provisional ballot that was never counted. Finally, in April 2024, a Texas court rejected that theory and acquitted her. So, all's well that ends well? Not really. First, Ms. Mason had to live through years and years with a 5-year prison sentence hanging over her head. Second, the case sadly may teach people who have had a brush with the law to not risk trying to register and vote. The stakes are too high. That's wrong, but fortunately, Ms. Mason has taught us another lesson about fortitude and the importance of fighting for your rights. The Civil Liberties Minute is made possible by the ACLU because freedom can't protect itself.
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1947. That was the day hundreds of thousands of Detroit area auto workers returned to their jobs after bringing car production to a complete standstill. They walked off the job to protest the union-busting Taft-Hartley bill, then pending in Congress. Chrysler, Ford, Hudson, and Kaiser Fraser corporations were all shut down. George Romney, head of the Automobile Manufacturers Association, decried the work stoppage as a contract violation, costing the industry millions. The UAW called 350,000 of its members out in protest the day before. As many as 500,000 area workers walked off the job. 2 marches were organized from the east and west sides of the city that brought as many as 275,000 workers, black and white, men and women, AFL and CIO, converging onto Cadillac Square. A reported 65,000 workers from the Ford River Rouge plant alone marched as a contingent to the rally. Planes flew overhead trailing banners that read, "Oppose anti-labor legislation in Washington," "Down with Jim Crow legislation," and "Fight repeal of the Wagner Act." UAW leaders addressed the crowd at the 5-hour rally, stating, "The measures, if passed, would cut the heart of our unions into 1,000 tattered, bloody pieces." They declared the anti-labor bills as nothing more than proposals to punish the innocent and reward the guilty. For the record establishes that responsibility for recent major strikes rests without exception on the shoulder of industry. Briggs Local 212, which spearheaded the protest, marched with banners that demanded an independent labor party, while veteran auto workers carried placards that read, "We veterans didn't fight for union busting." The rally ended with the crowd singing solidarity and joining picket lines at nearby Bell Telephone to support striking phone workers.
Thank you for accompanying us here to the chef's table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy Metro Shrimp and Grits Thursdays. We always begin weather from around the world along the banks of the Rogue River in the Rogue River Valley of Southern Oregon on the west coast of the continental United States of America, where it is currently 50 degrees Fahrenheit, expecting only to get up to around 60, maybe a little bit less. It's much cooler than yesterday. Rain showers at the moment and cloudy with periods of rain this morning and then even more rain showers this afternoon. Winds will be out of the west-southwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour, and rain totals for today and tonight should get over a quarter inch of rain. We will have showers this evening, becoming a steady light rain overnight, bringing with us a quarter of an inch. Lows will be in the upper 40s, winds out of the west-southwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Then a steady light rain in the morning tomorrow, with showers continuing in the afternoon. Another quarter inch of rain in the offing. Highs should be in the mid-50s, winds out of the west at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Grass pollen is rated moderate right outside the window here in Rogue River. The air quality index for the region is in the good range at 18 parts per million. And that daytime UV index has ticked up in the high range to level 7. So take care, even though you have cloud cover. Take care. Barometric pressure is holding steady at 30.03 inches. Visibility is at 7 miles. And relative humidity is at 95%. Weather from around the world is brought to you by a crowd of crowdsourced weather stations that a crowd crowdsources from around the world, and that is the Weather Underground. London is 49 degrees with rain. Paris is 58 and sunny. Rome is 61 degrees and partly cloudy. Kabul is 56 and mostly cloudy. Hong Kong is 68 and clear. Tokyo is 66 and clear. Melbourne, Victoria, Australia is 55 degrees and cloudy. San Francisco, California is 57 degrees and mostly cloudy. Chicago, Illinois is 48 and sunny. And New York, New York is 51 degrees Fahrenheit and partly cloudy. And that is weather from around the world, brought to you by a crowd of crowdsourced weather stations that a crowd crowdsources from around the world. Edith M. Lederer at the World Desk of the Associated Press brings us this first amuse-bouche here at the chef's table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy Metro Shrimp and Grits Thursdays. Russia yesterday, Wednesday, vetoed a UN resolution sponsored by the U.S. and Japan calling on all nations to prevent a dangerous nuclear arms race in outer space, calling it a dirty spectacle that cherry-picks weapons of mass destruction from all other weapons that should also be banned. Oh, thank you. The vote in the 15-member Security Council was 13 in favor, Russia opposed, and China abstained. The resolution would have called on all countries not to develop or deploy nuclear arms or other weapons of mass destruction in space, as banned under a 1967 international treaty that included the U.S. and Russia, and to agree to the need to verify compliance. Thomas Greenfield, the UN ambassador, accused Russia of undermining global treaties to prevent the spread of nuclear weapons, irresponsibly invoking dangerous nuclear rhetoric, walking away from several of its armed control obligations, and refusing to engage in substantive discussions around arms control or risk reduction. She called yesterday's vote a real missed opportunity to rebuild much-needed trust in existing arms control regulations and our obligations. Thomas Greenfield's announcement of the resolution on March 18th followed White House confirmation in February that Russia had obtained a troubling anti-satellite weapon capability, although such a weapon is not operational yet. Putin declared later that Moscow has no intention of deploying nuclear weapons in space, claiming that the country has only developed space capabilities similar to those of the U.S. At the World Desk of the Associated Press brings us this final amuse-bouche here at the Chef's Table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy Metro Shrimp and Grits Thursdays. A Peruvian judge has ordered 18 months of preventative detention for an Iranian and 2 Peruvian men while they are investigated for attempting to kill 2 Israelis living in the South American country. The ruling by Magistrate Miguel Quevedo was handed down on Tuesday, but released only yesterday, Wednesday. The defendants are also accused of conspiracy to commit terrorism. The judge said the motive for the unsuccessful killing plot was unclear, but police and prosecutors in Peru have said the Iranian, Majid Azizi, could be a member of the Quds Force of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, which is responsible for intelligence work outside of Iran. The Associated Press could not independently confirm whether Azizi is a member of the Quds Force. Iranian authorities have not commented, will you think? Well, on March 15th, after Azizi's arrest, the Israeli embassy in Lima thanked the Peruvian police and the prosecutor's office in a press release for, quote, having dismantled an Iranian attack that was directed against an Israeli citizen, end quote. Prosecutors in Peru have subsequently said that images, messages, and testimonies were found indicating that Azizi contacted Peruvians Walter Loya and Angelo Trucillos in March to plan the killing of Israeli Sashar Malka. Malka, who is alive, has said on social media that he has been working as a tour guide and healer with traditional plants in Cusco, the ancient capital of the Incas, for more than 5 years. The other Israeli citizen who they planned to kill was Gilad Duchovny, who opened a cafe in Cusco in 2006 with his twin brother. According to the judge, it has been established with a high degree of plausibility that Azizi conspired with the Peruvians to kill the Israelis. Police found information about Malka and Duchovny in Azizi's Lima house. One of the Peruvians arrested, Trucillos, has a conviction for murder and aggravated robbery. Well, that brings us to the end of our broadcast period for the day, but you do know Netroots Radio broadcasts on, and we will meet up tomorrow for Blue Moon Spirits Fridays. So do stay tuned to Netroots Radio all day and all night for all the breaking news as it breaks, and we will meet up here tomorrow, right here, in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit.
Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théières, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ma robe à fleurs, sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, qu'il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte Goël. Je voudrais toujours te plaire, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je veux déjeuner par terre, comme au long de golfe clair, t'embrasser les yeux ouverts, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ma robe à fleurs, sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum, 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 dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum, 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 dans mon jardin d'hiver. Dans mon jardin d'hiver, dans mon jardin d'hiver.